Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of Civil War. I think the most obvious thing about Civil War is the premise. It's got a very high concept. That premise is very topical and meaningful and evocative. Feels very of the time right now. It's nice to see a movie say something straight like that. This movie seems to really be addressing a very serious topic directly. A major criticism I'm seeing is that its actual stances on political policies are pretty vague. I myself was hoping for maybe a little more, getting into why a civil war might break out. It would seem like something to include, but that's not really what it's going for. It's looking at broader themes. It's very anti-war. Instead of getting bogged down in specific policies, which could have distracted from what it's really trying to say, it's more focused on the nature of violence and how thin the line is between civility and chaos and anarchy. And this movie is really, I think, trying to unify people and just kind of point out how polarization is a problem. And so if it were to get into specific policies, it might undermine those themes. I know this sounds like it's being some kind of enlightened centrist movie, but it's not that it's being centrist. It's just trying to focus on humanity, on humans, and just kind of pointing out that in war nobody wins because people die, and it's just trauma everywhere you go, and even the people that survive feel a lot of guilt. And then it's also focusing on people being passive when they should be trying to make the things better. People just want to preserve their own bubble of safety rather than actually helping. So these are a lot of ideas, and for people to say because this movie doesn't take any stands on specific political policies means that it's empty, I think is a little unfair, because it is still conveying these themes of violence and humanity and polarization and passivity and guilt and trauma. And it is definitely very anti-war. There are scenes where characters, they're shooting at each other, but they're not even sure if they're on opposite sides because there's so much violence in the air. There's so much chaos that people are just killing each other almost randomly. I think this is a very real depiction of what war is like. War is chaos. War is murder. War is just a giant, horrible mess. So I think the movie is saying a lot, and I think it's saying it well, and it's saying important things. An aspect of the movie that I think is really key are the characters. It's very character-driven. Characters are very defined. They all have their traits, and they're very contrasting. Spaeny and Dunst's characters, they're almost like the same character at different stages in their lives. The characters are very synergistic. They bring out the most in each other, and they're productive. They all serve a narrative purpose. Each character has their perspective and provides a different viewpoint to all these themes. And on top of that, because it's so character-driven, it really gives the movie heart, which the movie really needs, because it is such a sprawling and upsetting story. It's really easy for this movie to be depressing and distant, but because it's so focused on the characters, it feels pretty personal. It feels very immediate. The acting helps this. They all have layers. There's a lot of internal struggles. There's range. I do feel like because the characters are so defined, sometimes they could feel a bit one note, but you see these hints. Spaony's character really grows. There's vulnerability, extreme vulnerability. Of course, there's crying and tears, but there's also shock and hysteria. There's real intensity, extreme outbursts. There's chemistry, of course. Spaeny and Dunst, they really hold this movie down. Their relationship kind of makes the movie. On top of all that, just a few other things I liked about the script. The exposition is motivated. There's a lot of exposition to a movie like this, and it all comes naturally, and it's never overbearing. They just say enough. There's moments of levity, kind of like dark humor. It really gives the movie needed relatability and breaks up the depressing feelings. The relationships are dynamic. The characters are growing together. Their relationships evolve. The arcs are really satisfying, especially Dunst. Her arc really means a lot. There's setup and payoff, a lot of foreshadowing, and the drama is really sincere, not just on a broader scale, but the personal, internal conflicts. It all feels honest, which is pretty key. So on an emotional, dramatic level, Civil War is a good blend of spectacle, substance, and intimacy. It feels big, feels meaningful and thoughtful, and it also feels heartfelt. Technically, Civil War is very assured. It knows what it's doing and does it well. It really handles tone well. Again, the tone is very serious, but it also has these moments of levity and sincerity and intimacy. It's very cohesive. It really helps the depressing, dark tones, kind of breaks them up. It's not monotonous. Because there's levity and heartfelt, touching moments, it makes the more tense and serious moments feel all the more important. because you care more. You see those glimpses of humanity, so you see what's at stake. It's a good blend there on the tone front. The tension is really consistent throughout. When a movie is tense the whole way through, it can really easily be like tiring, but it does a good balancing act of feeling tense and then having these cool downs. But those cool downs just kind of create more tension because they create more stakes. And there's scale. It really feels like there's a world. It's a very small story about these 4 journalists, but they are in a bigger world, and you feel that through the direction. The cinematography, it's a good balance of objective and subjective. So objective is more detached, neutral, and subjective is more what the characters are feeling or more what they see and what they feel. And the cinematography does a good balance of the two. Focus is a very big technique they use. They use focus a lot of shallow focus. The character surrounded by out of focus, they feel very shook or very isolated or almost like they're having like an out-of-body experience. There's a lot of pretty lighting, a lot of like golden lighting. The angles are really well used. There are shots where the camera will move and shift angles and it completely changes what the shot is saying. There are reflections, there are POVs, point of view shots. The editing is also good. It's not very flashy, but it does a really good job of creating momentum and maintaining tension, but also breaking it up with cool downs. They also use inserts really well. The characters will take a picture and then right in the middle of an action sequence will stop and just see the picture for a moment. The action is so engrossing and so kind of exciting, but these pictures stop and make you just feel sad. There are montages, the pace shifts, so the action sequence are high energy, a lot of cutting, and then we'll go to a scene where the characters have left the action and they're quieter and calmer, less cuts. And their chapters, they're kind of subtle in the way they convey the chapters. There'll be like a title that says how far they are from their destination, and it kind of serves as a new chapter. The sound is probably the best aspect of the film. It's very immersive. There's of course a lot of action and combat. When dealing with war movies, there's just a lot of sound, but there's also a lot of perspective. Silence. I think silence is probably the most effective technique the sound design uses. In the middle of an action sequence, something important will happen to a character and they just cut the sound completely out and we're just with this character. It's very intimate. It really brings the viewer in to what the character is feeling. There's some smash cuts. There's some symbolism. There's a point when a character takes a picture and then the clicking of the picture keeps repeating even though the character is not clicking the picture anymore. It's symbolic. It's abstract. It's because it's a very important picture that character took. That choice to take that picture is maybe the most important choice in the whole movie, and they emphasize it by repeating the clicking sound in this rhythmic way. The music is very atmospheric. There's a lot of scoring. It's just kind of somber, but there's also these very eclectic needle drops where it's nothing obvious. I don't think I even know any of the songs off the top of my head, but they're very fitting. I think they have like a very 70s feel, which it's a very smart era to invoke. It's very juxtaposing. The end credits song is very upbeat, which is kind of the opposite of the mood that the movie ends on. And juxtaposition is just so effective. It can really accentuate the mood. It's very restrained. The whole climax, there isn't a song played at all, no music played. There's enough going on. It lets the viewer focus on what's happening. There's some diegetics. There's at least one sequence where there's like Christmas music playing. It's happening in the reality of the movie, and it's kind of unsettling. It's a little discordant when a character's really seeing something horrifying. The music's very sour, so it amplifies the unsettling nature of what the character is seeing. The production design creates a lot of world building. It's very apocalyptic. It's a lot of detail, like them being in a stadium, but the stadium's completely covered in graffiti. It's very grounded in realism. It feels very now. It just makes the movie feel very immediate. The cast is very talented. They're recognizable. People know who Kirsten Dunst is. There's some rising fame, like Spaeny. She's an up-and-comer. There's a lot of diversity. The cast is also kind of against type in their fit. I think Dunst, it's always nice to see an actor do something different than you're used to and do it really well. The effects there's a lot of them because this movie's so big. There's CGI, there's stunts, there's a lot of blood, there's makeup, some pyrotechnics, and it really makes the action very visceral. The violence is hard to look at. Overall, Civil War is a very skillful movie and a very timely movie. It has a lot to say. It feels very important. It's great. I'm happy that a movie like this is coming out now. It's really forcing us to reflect on hard truths. It's really pointing out how close we are to things like this and how terrible that reality would be if we got to it. So it's an eye-opening movie and it's well made. I do see the criticisms, but all in all, I was happy with the movie. It took a very interesting, daring premise and ran with it well. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. My also have a Instagram linked in the description, so you're welcome to follow me there. I have more content there. I'd be happy for any support there or here. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.